And somehow, he tactfully didn't want to say congratulations, my brother, but he said, the Kenyan people, keep your eye on the leader and make sure you hold him accountable. To me, that was a plus, that he believed in the power of the people of Kenya, that they can hold their leaders accountable. And I can imagine anybody here saying, please, President Museveni has been elected, keep him under watch. When the man has told you he's not your leader, he actually doesn't serve anyone, he only serves he's only there for his family and his children. Who would say keep him under watch? I also witnessed a significant thing this morning when the speaker was saying, I have officially received the instrument of power from my predecessor, has handed over. Oh my God, when are we seeing this? Here, as someone gets out of office as if you are being chased. People are praying that the following day you leave office and they enter.
There was a church in this, a diocese in this country.
Yes.
Where they put pins
into the seat of the bishop.
Yes.
Yes, so in Chisolo. And you know, this is what we are witnessing as a country. I would like to congratulate the people of Kenya. And I think the ones I can also congratulate in Africa are the people of Ghana who do such a politics that is mature, politics that is meant to really advance governance and advance democracy. How I wish Ugandans would also borrow a leaf from their neighbors. I know my brother Ofono Pondo will say, but even here we are doing this. But I can tell you that the people of Kenya have distinguished themselves. They are so far in terms of democracy. We can keep saying, yes, we hold elections. Yes, we are trying. But where we still beat Ugandans as they are trying to participate in the governance of their country, and yet Article 1 of the Constitution puts power into the people's hands. There isn't much we can do.
Let's go to Opondo and
with the Rutahaburwas in the chair, there isn't much we can learn.
Andrew Rumba, I think, sent this message for Council Kinobe and says, where in my village where I grew up, a chicken thief is a chicken thief. He's a thief. And a cow thief is a thief. However, the rulings in Kenya and Uganda electoral petitions suggest that for one to be a substantive thief, there has to be a certain degree of safety, which they have never clarified. Let's know the maximum in numbers. How many votes must be stolen that can invalidate an election?
But enough to change the outcome.
How much thieving?
Enough to change the outcome.
But you know,
substantially.
Mr.
Yes.
Charles,
yes.
People need to put that thing in the context. Elections is not a joke. This is a very important exercise that involves the whole country, that involves a lot of money, that it, you know, when you are considering it, you consider that point. Is it worth really for this thing to annul the whole elections so that people begin afresh?
So you agree from where you sit, Honorable Matembe, that in terms of our jurisprudence, that thing introduced in the Ugandan electoral jurisprudence in 2001 has merit?
But it was not introduced, it is in the Constitution. No, it is a constitutional requirement. Let me tell you, like he said that, did you say common sense? Or it can be seen really where they say there are things where you say, but surely, look at this or the other. And when you are putting it in the elections, as I told you, being a very big exercise, that for you to say no, it must be repeated. There must be something of substance. That's why they say substantial. And you look at the totality of everything, and then you say, yeah, in fact, this is it.
Thank you. Let's bring in Ofono Pondo. Ofono Pondo, as you come in, Igumira Rwamasindi says, Raila Odinga should be thanked. His election losses helped deepen Kenya's democracy. His legal petitions have entrenched the rule of law and deepened democracy in Kenya.
Now,
your take?
Well, first of all, it's a very interesting argument coming from the other side in Uganda. Now, for Kenya, they agree with the substantiality. here when the judges said they could not nullify the elections that have been challenged of the president. What did they say? They said the judges were either intimidated or bold or biased or incompetent. All those things were used. And now I'm glad that they are speaking with both sides of the mouth on this matter. For me, I have every confidence in the Uganda legal process, including our judicial system. In terms of election administration and laws, I don't think the laws and rules procedures are very different. I think the problem in Uganda are the characters that participate in election. The political parties, the candidates, their agents, and supporters.
And the military, you better see.
We have created, you made your point, you have created a situation where the participants, especially the candidates and their political parties, go into election believing that there is only one way. A small opposition person, a person who is coming for the first time, somehow think that they can, the only thing is that they will win. And so that fouls the environment of the electoral process. And it spills over into the court system. And hence, the labeling of judges like we have had. If you look at, and I think even the lawyering in Uganda, in my view, especially of the lawyers who represent opposition presidential candidates, I think they don't tell their clients the truth and facts. They also don't.
You think Raila's lawyers told him the truth and facts?
They also don't help them to appreciate the necessary ingredients that are required in courts to nullify a presidential election. Because Honorable Matembe is now saying presidential election is very big. We spend a lot of resources. And therefore, you cannot just nullify it because somebody has complained. If what was presented as evidence in Raila's case had been presented here, you remember in that Raila's case, the evidence which was brought in by Soweto, Julie, where she was saying the machines, the technology, was infiltrated. And she showed that there were forms that the serial numbers were the same.
They didn't have security.
They didn't have. If that had been presented in the courts here by opposition lawyers, it would have been taken as gospel truth. That must lead to a nullification in the election.
What did the judges in Kenya say? The justices of the Supreme Court say about lawyer Soweto?
Well, all the 9, what I can summarize is that all the 9 grounds collapsed. If all the 9 grounds had collapsed here, somebody would have said the Chief Justice and the entire quorum was bought. If all the judges consented, as this one was, unanimous, a Ugandan litigant wouldn't agree that it is possible for 7 judges, as in this case, to agree. So the character of the participants in Uganda's political process, I think our quality needs to change and improve substantially, both from the ruling party side, but I think much more from the opposition. You have seen in Uganda's case, and I think this is again what we can learn. You go to a court at presidential level, and somebody says ballots were stuffed, and you ask them for evidence. They say, no, we don't have to give evidence. We know, our people told us votes were stuffed. You go and say, but if you say you had polling agents in all the 28,000 polling stations, produce your DRF forms, at least from from 200 polling stations. They don't have it, but they will insist that their agents were chased and therefore the signature on the DRA forms were not theirs. And this is where I found the Kenyan lawyers, where they said Form 34A, we suspect, they were able to produce. In Uganda, they don't do it. They simply make allegations and they think a judge should nullify a presidential election. The other one,
Honorable Matembe is saying that the DRA forms would have been grabbed from
the other one is law. If you go to university when you are studying even political science and law, there's something called the origin of the law. The origin of the law, the origin of the state, and so on. Law comes from, first of all, common sense. Do you expect from a common sense point of view that elections would be presidential election would be nullified consecutively? They nullified in 2017. Would it make political sense, common sense, to nullify it again because you want it as a fashion to prove that you are democratic? Would you anticipate that? So I think anybody who even expected, anybody who even expected that this election could be nullified because it was nullified in 2017, I don't think their mind is not very serious, in my view.
Honorable Matembe and I think
now
Honorable
we can even go.
Yes.
We can even go to the ground of the Maraga nullification. I think if we had used the same yardstick, probably this election would have been nullified. Why? Because first of all, like you have observed yourself, the margin was too thin to call. Two, the ingredients, the evidence that were adduced by the petitioners, I don't think was substantially different from the one of 2017. So, I think what we can copy, what we can emulate, is the character of the players.
Honorable Winnie and
as far as the judicial process was concerned.
Yes, Mr. Pondo, Honorable Matembe here and Honorable Winnie have argued something about the process. That the major difference you have between Ugandan elections and Kenyan elections may not be on voting day, but even on voting day is the process leading up to that election.
But you see, even that process is eventually informed by the character of the players. For example, if you have a presidential candidate who says, I have 90% of support in the army, if you are the sitting president, you begin to look at the military formations. Who are the likely officers or units this presidential candidate is claiming is supporting them? You want to protect the state. So you will not take that presidential candidate lightly when he's saying he's enjoying 90%. You remember that's how basically began. If somebody is asked, supposing you lose, would you accept or would you take up arms? Then he says, I don't rule out taking up arms because Article 3, is that Article 3? Article 2 gives me authority, gives me a right to take up arms. 3, you may have people who want to create scenes. Somebody wants to create scenes and says, I want to have public sympathy. I will not get the votes, but let me create a scene to be public. So he will come before the Electoral Commission barefooted for nomination, and even if
you'll have responses from Matembe and Winnie
and myself.
Somebody will kick off their shoes so that they create a scene. Now you don't see that.
I was thinking that
for which I want to conclude with. Did you see in this last election of Kenya campaigns where a candidate threatens or defies the police? Did you see? merely because he's a presidential candidate,
And did you see any army arresting
or a parliamentary candidate.
Did you
don't
see any shooting?
Here, it is the norm. Here we seem to think.
Let's debate that.
No,
Let's debate that
here
after
we
very
seem
short
to
break.
think that once I am a